have my respect. Double down. Yes. 3 down. Nothing. I bet they didn't expect that. 2 for 1. Guardian to the right of you. Guardian to the left. Guardian in front of you.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Diaslayers, and in this video, we're going to discuss focused Umbral Engrams and Iron Banner weapons, specifically the perks that you need to find them, aka the God Roll perks for these bad boys, in this brand new season known as Destiny 2 Season of Arrival. In other words, this video is going to be broken down into 1 or 2 sections. The first one being brand new perks that we're going to cover and to find out all their definitions and that kind of jazz. And number 2, weapons that you can either then get from either focused Umbral Engrams, Iron Banner when he eventually does come around, and World Drops combined together. Before we go any further, understand that I'm not covering one of 2 things. The first one is no power weapons. No power weapons are going to be covered simply because there's way too many awesome primary weapons as well as special weapons that we can then use, and we really got to focus in on those as those are going to have some great potential. But secondly, for you to then understand that I'm not going to be using all the weapons that are in this list and showing game footage with that, simply because I don't have them yet. But keep in mind that all the perks that are going to be shown for these weapons is definitely the ones that you want to look for. And to find this out, the only thing left to do is just to simply sit back, relax, maybe grab some Sour Patch Kids, eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. First up is some brand spanking new perks, and might I add that some of these look very appealing, and also know that some of them can actually come together on different types of weapons, so be on the lookout for a bunch of these bad boys, and the first one that we're going to inspect is called Sympathetic Arsenal. Sympathetic Arsenal states that reloading after a final blow also reloads stowed weapons. Upon first inspection, I thought, I don't know about this. But then when I thought about it, this can be exceptionally vital if you happen to use this thing on one-shot weapons. And that includes something like, say, a bow, or maybe something like, say, a sniper rifle. Let's take this brand new bow, for example, called the Whispering Slab, which does have this bad boy, and when you happen to get a kill with this thing with that perk, you're automatically reloading the weapon as soon as you happen to put on a brand new arrow. And so every single time that you happen to have this weapon with this perk, you're then going to automatically reload your secondary weapon, just like that, bada bing bada boom, and get ready to do some potential 2-taps if you happen to have a high impact hand cannon that also happens to have some like say Rampage or something else along those lines. Now that I've given you some food for thought, let's go to the next perk called Unrelenting. And Unrelenting states that rapidly defeating targets triggers health regeneration. Guardians and powerful combatants count as more than 1 kill. Now what this leads me to believe is that as soon as you happen to get 1 kill, that's then going to count as multiple kills in Crucible and thus automatically proc this perk and then instantaneously regenerate your health. But on the flip side of this though, I'm not 110% sure if that's actually the case, as some weapons might function this way and some ones might not. And so I'm definitely going to have to do some more testing on this, but if you guys know some actual testing on this and can show that, then by all means, please, oh please, link that in a comment down below, and that's going to help not just myself, but everybody in the entire community. Now that we got that perk covered, the next one that we want to cover is called Killing Wind. And Killing Wind states that final blows grant increased mobility, weapon range, and handling for a short duration. That's the way I like it, baby. Because that perk right there definitely gets me super jacked and pumped. I mean, I can't tell you as to how awesome that perk is. Because as soon as we happen to get that 1 kill, just like that, we're going to get increased mobility, weapon range, and handling for a very short duration. And that's going to help in getting not just 1 kill, but 2 kills and 3 kills, and could easily come in clutch, especially when we find ourselves in 1v3 situations, such as trials, for example. Just a little bit of an FYI, I do know that Killing Wind and Unrelenting can actually come together on different types of weapons in different separate columns, and thus they can be together on the same weapon, and that right there is outstanding, and that can make for some crazy good plays with different types of weapons, and so we'll cover all that jazz in just a few minutes. But before we do so, we have to cover 2 other perks, and that is Iron Grip and Iron Gaze. First off the bat is Iron Grip, and Iron Grip states that this perk massively improves weapon stability at the cost of reload speed, and gives precisely plus 20 stability for negative 40 reload speed. I know what your first thought is, that is ridiculous. Negative 40 for a reload speed for only plus 20 stability? Is that a fair trade-off? I don't really know, because that's really just going to depend upon the weapon, but upon first inspection, I'm going to say no. Capital N, capital O, but hey, that's just me for right now, so we're going to move on to the next perk, which is kind of similar, and it's called Iron Gaze. Iron Gaze states that this perk massively improves weapon target acquisition at the cost of weapon range, and more precisely, gives plus 20 aim assistance for negative 40 range. Yes, you heard me right as I said plus 20 aim assistance for negative 40 range. And I'm like, what the heck? Bungie, come on, what are you thinking up in here? Range is one of the most important stats of any other stat in the entire game. And so to trade that off for plus 20 aim assistance, is that a fair trade? I'm gonna say that this right here is the definition of fluff cabbage trash shenanigans. But hey, that's just me, so let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below, as I'll certainly be very intrigued. And having said that, we've now come to the conclusion of the first part of the video, aka the brand new perks, and discussing those, and now we've come to the second part of the video discussing all the brand new weapons, and more precisely, the perks that you guys should look for to get the ideal god roll. The first one that we're going to cover is called False Promises. False Promises is most likely one of the brand new weapons that you're going to get first by doing these focus Umbral Engrams, and to be more exact, you can actually get this by doing number 1, pyramid focused, or number 2, rifle focused Umbral Engrams. Just as a teeny tiny bit of a refresher, this is then going to be in the exact same art type as something like, say, the Halfdan D. If you're wondering what you should be looking for on this thing, then don't worry, I got your back and I've got you covered. Because as you guys can see from right there on screen, here's all the perks that I would recommend. In the first column, we got Arrowhead Break, Chamber Compensator, Extended Barrel, as well as Fluted Barrel. And then comes the second column, which is then going to be High Caliber Rounds, Ricochet Rounds, Flare Magwell, or Light Mag, ensued by the third column to then either be Overflow, Killing Wind, Dynamic Sway Reduction, Feeding Frenzy, or Subsistence, and lastly our final column to then either be Swashbuckler, Unrelenting, Zen Moment, Eye of the Storm, as well as Rampage. First of all, understand that the reason why I wanted you to have either Arrowhead Break or Chamber Compensator or maybe something like Extended Barrel was because that's then going to allow the weapon to have an increased recoil control and make the weapon that much more accurate on a much more consistent basis. But secondly, you can also then get high caliber rounds on this thing, allowing it to flinch like no other, but then encompassing this all together is some great combinations in that third and fourth column. And that can include something like, say, Subsistence and Rampage, or maybe something exceptionally unique that I believe can't be found on any other auto in this entire game, and that is Dynamic Sway Reduction with Zen Moment. And lastly, we have something very cool as well, with some brand new perks, and that is Unrelenting along with Killing Wind. This weapon right here has a ton of rolls that are going to be godly, so let me know which one that you guys get down in the comment section below. Next up is another brand new weapon, and it's called Whispering Slap. And the reason why I like this thing is because number 1, it's a bow, but it can also do some very unique things. Yet before we get into that, you have to know that you can get it by number 1, pyramid focused, or number 2, edge focused Umbral Engrams. Now some of you might be thinking, okay, well, why do you like this thing so much, Xander? And to you I say, let's dive right into the perks and the ones that I recommend. You guys can see all those that I recommend right there on screen. Now I'm not going to cover those first and second columns because that ultimately comes down to you and what you want, because these types of perks are then going to increase something like, say, stability, accuracy, or something else along those lines. But as far as that third and fourth column goes, here we happen to have Quick Draw, Archer's Tempo, Killing Wind, and Rangefinder in that third column. But then in that fourth column, we got just about every perk that's going to be amazing, and that includes Opening Shot, Vorpal Weapon, Sympathetic Arsenal, Demolitionist, Unrelenting, and Swashbuckler. Now let's take one step back and remember what I said from the very beginning of the video about Sympathetic Arsenal, and that bow can have this, and that's exactly what I want you to have in conjunction with something like, say, either Archer's Tempo or maybe something like, say, Quick Draw. As soon as you happen to get that final blow with this bow, you're automatically then going to reload it, as all you simply have to do is reload one arrow, and then poof, just like magic, you're then going to have your secondary weapon reload instantaneously, and that can be fantastic for something like, say, a high impact hand cannon that also happens to have Rampage, and then boom, you got 2-tap after 2-tap after 2-tap, and that right there just might make enemy guardians a little bit salty. Now if Quick Draw and Sympathetic Arsenal doesn't really float your boat, or maybe you can get something even better than this, and that might be Rangefinder and Swashbuckler. Now, I'm not 110% sure, but I'd be really intrigued if anybody knows this, if Swashbuckler can actually one-shot somebody, and so if it can, oh boy, that's gonna make some crazy fun plays, and definitely something that I wanna grind for over and over again so that I can do exactly this. With this, we then come to our third weapon that can actually be obtained from these focused Umbral Engrams, and it's called the Cold Denial. The Cold Denial is one of these brand new high-impact pulse rifles, and might I add that this art type as a whole got a buff this season, and so it's making it that much simpler to actually two-burst somebody, and so by all means, Be on the lookout for this thing because it's got some crazy good rolls that can two-tap that much more effectively and potentially kill you even faster with some amazing damage buffing perks. And I see all the perks that I recommend. You guys can see those right there on screen. In the first column, we got Arrowhead Break, Chamber Compensator, Extended Barrel, and Fluted Barrel, followed by High Caliber Rounds, Ricochet Rounds, Flare Magwell, and Light Mag in the second column, ensued by this to then be either Feeding Frenzy, Zen Moment, Pulse Monitor, and Killing Wind in the third column, and finally our fourth column of perks to then either be Headseeker, Swashbuckler, Unrelenting, Eye of the Storm, and Multi-Kill Clip. Similar to the false promises that I already mentioned, I still want you to have some kind of recoil control increasing perk in that first column, but as far as the second column of perks goes, here I really want you to have High Caliber Rounds to once again have that crazy good flinch. However, as far as that third and fourth column goes, here we get some oh so juicy, spicy, and crispy flavors here because we can get some great combinations of perks, and something like that might include Unrelenting and Killing Wind, or maybe something like Feeding Frenzy and Multi-Kill Clip. Heck, you might even get something like say Pulse Monitor and Headseeker, as that can make the weapon that much more consistent. And I'm not entirely sure about Headseeker, but I believe that I might be able to 2-burst just the same way but actually be a little more lenient. Again, don't quote me on that as I'm not 110% sure, but just to kind of give you an idea, there are so many combinations of perks here that can make this thing number 1 more lethal, number 2 more consistent, or number 3 a combination of those two that I just mentioned. No matter how much you look at this Cold Denial is going to be a lot of fun to use, and who knows, it might just come and play for trials or might just come and play for comp, so take this thing out as soon as you happen to get it and see what kind of roll that you get, and maybe it just might be that god roll that we're all searching for. Now that we've got all that covered, we finally come to our very first special weapon, and it's called the Hollow Words. Just that we're all on the exact same page, the Hollow Words can be attained by number 1, Pyramid Focused, or number 2, Rifle Focused Umbral Engrams. If you're like me, you've probably gotten it from that Pyramid Focused Umbral Engram, because I still haven't quite unlocked the rifle one yet, but hey, you might have just got lucky enough to get that oh so spectacular god roll, and that might include one of the perks or combinations of perks that I recommend. We can see those right there on screen. As far as that first column of perks go, what are we trying to do? We're trying to increase the weapon's overall recoil control, so then we can get more of the bullets for this fusion rifle to land more consistently. But as far as the second column of perks goes, here I recommend number 1, Liquid Coils, or number 2, Projection Fuse. Now here's where things get really interesting, because in that third column, we happen to have Slideways, Quick Draw, Under Pressure, and Killing Wind, ensued by that fourth column to then either be Vorpal Weapon, Unrelenting, or Backup Plan. Some of you might notice that once again, we can get not just Killing Wind, but also Unrelenting in 2 separate columns, and that right there is a fantastic symbiotic relationship between those 2 perks. But something else that I think is going to be very exceptional and quite exciting is something like Slideways and Unrelenting. That right there alone is going to make the weapon that much more consistent, and thus when you proc Unrelenting, health regeneration baby. So if that's your cup of tea, then definitely look for that. But if it's not your cup of tea, then maybe you want something like say Quick Draw and Backup Plan. Oh yeah, that right there is going to be a crazy good combination. I mean, I can't even describe to you as to how awesome that tool is going to be. But for me, that's not the playstyle that I like to have. But for some of you, it might be right up your alley. And if it is, then there is no doubt in my mind that you're going to get a strike after strike after strike just like in bowling and roll at 300 with one of those rolls that I just mentioned. Now that we've kind of covered some of the focused Umbral Engram weapons, the very next thing I want to focus on is some brand new Iron Banner weapons. And those 2 weapons could just be phenomenal, one of them of which I know is going to be the meta, and that's going to be called the Forward Path. For those of you that remember, the Forward Path is actually in the exact same archetype as someone like say the Summoner or the Ether Doctor or even the Gnawing Hunger, and that's the Adaptive Frame archetype, which means that it's dominant right now in PvP, and thus the Forward Path is also going to be exactly this. So when Iron Banner does come around, you might just get this by completing matches and having a drop, or you might also have a drop via Lord Saladin by turning in some Iron Banner tokens and gain a package, and voila, you got this thing, and hopefully with a god roll. What god roll, you might ask? That's a glorious question, Diaslayers. I'm so happy that you asked it because as you can see from right there, here's all the perks that I recommend. And as far as that first column of perks goes, here we're talking about sights and only sights, and those are going to be low zoom to medium zoom scopes. But as far as the second column goes, here we happen to have Accurized Rounds, Tactical Mag, and Flare Magwell, ensued by Feeding Frenzy, Pulse Monitor, and Dynamic Sway Reduction in the third column, and finally our last column to then either be Swashbuckler, Multi-Kill Clip, Eye of the Storm, or Tap the Trigger. Now some of you are going to notice that I left out number 1, Iron Grip, and number 2, Iron Gaze. And the reason why I left those two perks out, even though they're brand spanking new perks, is because those things, in my opinion, are the definition of hot garbage. I don't think that the trade-off that you're getting is even close to fair, and so for me, I'm not going to recommend that. But hey, if you happen to get this weapon with one of those perks, by all means, try it out and see how you like it. Maybe you will, maybe you don't. I'm not you, but who's to say that you won't like it and who's to say that you will, so by all means, give it a try. And having said that though, what I will say is that I'm definitely going to recommend number 1, Feeding Frenzy and Swashbuckler, or number 2, Feeding Frenzy and Multi-Kill Clip, in particular the last combination of perks, as that right there is going to be excellent for PvP and make it so that as soon as you happen to get 1, 2, 3 kills, not only are you then going to get a faster reload speed for proccing Feeding Frenzy times 3 or Feeding Frenzy times 2, but then you're also then going to get a faster TTK as Multi-Kill Clip is going to increase the weapon's damage output significantly. On the flip side of this though, you might also want something that's going to be exceptionally consistent, and this forward path can do that exact same thing, as it can run with not just tap the trigger, but also dynamic sway reduction. There is no doubt in my mind that if you happen to get that combination of perks, this thing's going to be a laser beam and hit crit after crit after crit. With this, I think you might recall that I mentioned a second Iron Banner weapon that's coming back, and that beauty just so happens to be called the Fool's Remedy. The Fool's Remedy is one of those serverless frame weapons, and that means that it's also going to be firing in full auto guaranteed every single time as an intrinsic perk. But some of the things that it doesn't have intrinsically is some random rolls, and to see what I kind of want you guys to have on this thing, you can see all the perks that I recommend right there on screen. Now I'm not going to cover that very first column of perks, as that's just going to come down to you and what you want, aka personal preference, because some guardians might want more stability while others want more handling. However, the second column has some excellent perks, and that might include high caliber rounds, ricochet rounds, or flare magwell or light mag. But then comes the third column, and that includes moving target, pulse monitor, feeding frenzy, and hip fire grip, ensued by the last column of perks that then be quick draw, eye of the storm, kill clip, and rangefinder. Yet again, what are you going to notice that I'm not recommending? Iron grip and iron gaze. And having said that, what I will say is that you can still get some phenomenal combinations of perks here, and that might include something like, say, moving target and rangefinder, or feeding frenzy and kill clip, or pulse monitor and eye of the storm. All 6 of those perks that I just mentioned is not going to let you down, and their symbiotic relationship is just this, amazing, spectacular, and gorgeous in so many ways. But if you also happen to find yourself in a pinch and maybe in a panic, then maybe something like, say, quick draw and hip fire grip is going to be exactly what you're looking for. All I can say is that when Iron Banner comes around, there is no doubt in my mind that I'm going to be grinding as much as I possibly can to get number 1, Feeding Frenzy and Kill Clip, or number 2, Moving Target and Rangefinder, as those 2 combinations of perks is going to fit my playstyle the best, especially if I happen to have something like high caliber rounds on top of that. When this is the case, we're going to be in perfect harmony, and enemy guardians are going to get melted just like a knife through butter. Now comes the part of the video where we're covering the very last weapon in this entire arsenal, and that's going to be one I think might have some potential to truly be a colossal hitting beast if you happen to get one specific role. To find that role, we're going to look at this weapon as a whole, and that weapon is the Nature of the Beast. Oh yeah, it's back. Nature of the Beast is a 180 rate of fire hand cannon that many are thinking, gosh, these things are terrible right now as their optimal TTK is only 1 second on the dot. But this weapon right here can actually have one perk that's going to increase this, and in combination with another, can actually have the 0.67 TTK on kill after kill after kill. And to find that out, we're going to look at all the perks that I recommend right there on screen. Just like with the Fool's Remedy, that first column of perks is solely dependent upon you and what you want, as that's really coming down to personal preference and playstyle. But as far as the second column of perks goes, here we happen to have Accurized Rounds, Tactical Mag, and Flare Magwell, ensued by the third column to then be Subsistence, Snapshot Under Pressure, and Quick Draw, and then finally our fourth column to then either be Rangefinder, Demolitionist, Vorpal Weapon, or High Impact Reserves. On almost every single weapon in this entire game, I never ever recommend High Impact Reserves unless it's a fusion rifle, and the reason being is because you're automatically in the bottom half of the magazine as soon as you happen to spawn. But with this particular Nation of the Beast, I'm definitely going to recommend this because as soon as you happen to get into the bottom half of the magazine with this thing, you can then 3-tap. You heard me right. As I say, with this Nature of the Beast and in the bottom half of the magazine with High Impact Reserves, you can 3-tap. And when you combine this with something like, say, Subsistence, oh my goodness gracious, that combination could be the best god roll that you can possibly ask for on this wonderful beauty. And the reason why I say this is because, think about it like this. Say that you're in the bottom half of the magazine and you happen to get 1 kill. all of a sudden, you get subsistence to proc, get some more bullets into the bottom half of the magazine, can still proc high impact reserves, thus proccing subsistence on the next kill, and so on and so forth. And so you can see that this cycle is just going to continue with that combination of perks. I think I've made my point in that you want to have number 1, high impact reserves, and number 2, subsistence. But for many of you, you may just simply want a more consistent weapon. And so if that's the case, then maybe you want to look for something like quick draw and rangefinder. Or maybe you want something like, once again, high impact reserves and under pressure. Or maybe you just simply want a weapon that can take out supers in a fairly easy manner, and that might be something like, say, snapshot sights and vorpal weapon. As I said before in the past, the only person that can know your playstyle better than anybody else is you. So by all means, pick what combination of perks is going to work best for you. But might I add, just as a nice little reminder, the high impact reserves and subsistence just might be that little bit of spicy seasoning that enemy guardians need to say, what the heck is going on? And that's going to be an oh so great feeling when they realize that they just got some prego with that spicy pasta sauce. With this, Diaslayers, you now have my entire god roll guide for every single focused Umbral Engram and Iron Banner Engram, as well as one exception, the Nature of the Beast, that I really want you guys to all try and get. So hopefully this helped you, and if you want to see a different weapon that I haven't covered, more in depth or rather just in general, then by all means, let me know what that is down in the comment section below. And as soon as I happen to get my god roll guide for that weapon, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm definitely going to get that out ASAP, and that is something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share a comment like on social media, because you are the greatest. That's much all I've got for you as of right now, Diaslayers, and as always, GG TNT.